Ah! Look at this. Here he is. Coach Few, thank you so much for joining in on our event. We're so honored to have you. So we're getting crazy with this thing tonight. We are starting with the 1990 Jim McPhee team, the last losing team at Gonzaga.
My first.
Your first.
My first year here.
And it's kind of the Gonzaga way where, from what I hear, people went to Jim and said, we could be okay this year, but if we redshirt these 5 guys in a transfer next year, we could be great. And he agreed to it, and then you've got those 6 guys every day with a certain grad assistant coach who seemed to have a dream before anybody else did. Can you tell us about that team and that process?
Well, first of all, I think Fitz deserves all the credit for that. I mean, entirely, he decided to, redshirt that group, and even probably more so, stuck with it as the year started progressing, which, having been now in 25 of those years, I mean, I'm not sure I could have done that in his spot. So he deserved a lot of. I would have been pulling him up constantly, like you're pulling him out of the G League or something. And so he deserves a ton of credit for, taking the lumps with that year and planning for the future. But it was a fun group. And, back in those days, we'd have to go into the field house a lot and just kind of practice on our own. And, we decided as a group that when we did get the 15 minutes to scrimmage against the varsity or the A team or whatever, those were just going to be our games. And the guys did a great job of doing that. And it was a totally Gonzaga team in that, Eric Brady was our power forward that was kind of our enforcer, and Jeff Goss was our, quick little point guard that was wild as all get out. And that year, and carried on all the way through to his senior year, and then we finally got him kind of calmed down. But, Scott Spank was athletic, bouncy, skilled, kind of 3-4, and just kind of piecing all those guys together. Jared Davis was our, probably our best scorer. I mean, he could really stretch the floor and was a big wing. And then we had Marty Wall, and Marty Wall was just a very hand-eye guy, skilled. That freshman year couldn't move very well, but the camaraderie between those guys it started then and just got better and better, as their careers went through.
Now, I read a quote from you when Dan Fitzgerald passed away where you said, I would not be here if it weren't for Fitz. And we hear these legendary stories of you and Coach Munson and Coach Greer rooming together, sleeping on the floor, making no money.
Sleeping in here, or not in here, in the other building.
I mean, this is
locker room.
The genesis of this magical program. Can you tell us a little bit about how you came to Gonzaga and tell us about the greatness of Dan Fitzgerald?
Oh, wow. We could spend a whole show on
I'm in. Book it. Book it. Sell the ads.
I came here because I met Dan Munson I was living in Eugene and coaching in Eugene, and decided to work Don Munson's camp. Dan's father, Don, was a head coach at Oregon, and Dan and I are basically the same age and just hit it off. And, after a couple weeks, I think, of working their camp, and Leon Rice was also working that camp, an opening was kind of available up here. It wasn't much of one. It was for a grad aid. I think I literally made $1,500 a year for the entire year. Munns let me sleep on his couch in his apartment, and it was great. It was just all coaching. I had to teach a couple activity classes for GU, like flag football and weight training and basketball and tennis. And my record still stands. I don't think I had you in there, but I gave everybody A's. I gave it my entire deal. Yeah, A. Everybody got an A who came to class. So you hear that out there, professors?
Professor Few, he's here.
Yeah, let's get on that train. But it was just all basketball, and Fitz was just, a whirlwind, man. The guy was just all incredible basketball mind, but just, he was all over the place, and also at the end of the day, loved to take everybody over to Chapter 11, and we'd hang out there till 11 o'clock at night sometimes, pretty much every night, which for all three of us were single at the time. After a while, that got a little bit old, and so we started kind of plotting and planning how to kind of get out of that whenever we could. But a lot of stories. One of the great characters, obviously, of the Spokane community, and even of kind of the West Coast college basketball community. Anybody's ever ran into Fitz always has a great story. And but yeah, he's the one that somehow magically kind of, once I came up here, another position opened up, I think in 2 years later or something, and we brought Billy Greer up. And then, with that relationship that we all had with Leon back in the day, when I finally became a head coach, then I hired Leon to come up here. So, but actually, Dan Munson deserves a lot of credit for kind of getting to Fitz and putting that staff together, because obviously Fitz didn't know any of us at the time.
Wow. So those red shirts then
turn
into seniors in the 1994 team, the Jeff Brown team. We're honoring them. It's their 30th anniversary. What are your favorite memories of that team and Jeff Brown and the first postseason wins, a win in the NIT against Stanford?
Yeah, and also obviously Brownie was part of that group too, and he was, he went on to become one of the all-time great Zags, with not only what he did on the court, but what he did academically. But again, what I remember about that team is they were a team, right? Like I just kind of said, they each had their own individual thing that they brought. And Matt Stanford obviously was, the athlete of that team, and also kind of combined with Eric Brady as an enforcer type. But so you just kind of had all the spots covered. We had a point, we had a 2, we had a 3, we had a 4, we had a Brownie, a skilled 5, and then obviously Marty Wall with some size and all that. So but the whole was so much greater than the sum of their parts. It really was. And as they got through their careers, we really started kind of doubling down on that and added some other pieces. But by the end of the run, they won a league championship, which we hadn't done in a long, long time, and got us into the postseason for the first time, and which was just, for us at that time was just an amazing accomplishment, and one we were really, really proud of.
And then the next year, it's the first NCAA tournament. We're bringing in Dixon, Scott Snyder, other legends.
Yeah. John Riley.
I
mean, John really carried us in that. I mean, probably one of the greatest performances in a conference tournament, that I've ever been around. I mean, he was just on fire. And but that team was interesting too. But I think that team really played off the success of the year before, because before it had all been like that talk, and it seemed like almost like a dream to even win a conference championship and let alone have a real chance to actually play in the NCAA tournament. And but that group kind of showed everybody that it could be done and how to win, and kind of the process of doing it. And then next group take the ultimate step. And I think what then everybody realized is getting to that NCAA tournament is a whole different deal, and it's just such a big time deal, and kind of put your name out there, and again that helped us in recruiting and helped us in everything moving forward from there. But I'd be sorry to interrupt, because I want to hear you talk. And
never. No, are you kidding?
But I'd also be remiss to just that group that started in 1990, and we had the Stockton, it had been handed down to them, and of coming to the gym, and getting your shots up and coming at night, and just repping it out and repping it out and repping out. And back in those days, our guys just have a code that they get in now. Back in those days, there was this, elusive key that got you into the gym that only John would pass down to somebody that he thought worthy, that would have that work ethic and get in and do that. And that group very much embodied that. Jim McPhee very much embodied that. One of the greatest workers, and I feel like in my era, the godfather of, getting in and getting your reps in, long before Steph Curry.
Yeah. Well, how much better were these guys playing with John Stockton every day? And I also saw the magic key. I
Did
think
you?
you know this story, but one day after a conference game, Richie Fromm knocked on my window, which was typical, and he wanted to get more shots up.
Yeah.
But he said, come on, we're going to go get my friend Dan to transfer here. And we were down at the old Martin Center, and then he showed him the key. And Dan's eyes got so wide.
Wow.
And that was a big moment,
Yeah.
I think, that helped push Dan Dick out here. And you had Richie Fromm out recruiting as well.
Yeah.
So you got a Jim Rat mentality here.
Yeah, and again, that's kind of where it all started, and it was so cool to see it carried over through the years, and even to this day. I mean, we've just had some legendary workers here, even ones. I mean, like just recently. I mean, Chet Holmgren probably spent 20 hours of his day down here. We could not get him out of this building, and which was pretty amazing, you know. We needed him to try to rest and put some weight on, you know, but being a Zag has carried over through all those years because of those guys.
Well, I heard something amazing. Now we're getting to the '99 team.
Yeah.
Richie Fromm told me something I'd never heard.
Well,
The great RF.
the source, but let's roll with it.
He said the '99 postseason, Quentin Hall was the one that started saying, we're going to go in, we're going to win. And he kept giving the guys this dream.
Yeah.
And there were some guys that were thinking they were going to have a little bit of a spring break. And Quentin Hall started loudly saying, we're going to go in and make some noise. And then things started to snowball. And I remember you snuck me along on the charter. Like, I can't believe all this
How good was
stuff.
that?
Oh, it's
well,
the
you were
best.
on the team. You were just quasi on the team, but I don't know that I could always convince the administration of that. So
No,
we
but
had
you
to-
sure did.
we
And
had
I'm
to
so
be
grateful.
clandestine in our efforts because you were a valuable member of that group, man. You truly had an impact on that group and all of us.
Thanks so much, Coach. When you think of Quentin Hall, what's the first thing that comes to mind? He kind of seems like the North Star that so much of the '99 team revolves around.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think that was, again, embodiment of everybody just really the whole was greater than the sum of the parts, and the sum of the parts were very, very good, but they developed some great chemistry and really identified into their roles to become, you know, a team. They took some lumps early. You know, Matt started as a freshman at point guard and had to take some lumps all the way through and was obviously a great player by the time he got to that senior year. Quentin was probably one of the most ferocious competitors we've ever had here, and you know, I'd put him in that same boat. I don't know how closely you've watched DeMontis Sabonis compete, but
Are you kidding? League pass, Coach.
I mean, those two are definitely, you know, in our competitive Hall of Fame here. But the beauty of Quentin, I'd also add, he's definitely at the top of this list. He's the cockiest guy relative to his ability that I've ever seen, and he has a little bit of a, you know. He thinks he's here when he's here, but God bless him, that belief can carry him a long way. And it became contagious with that team. And then, to his credit, you know, in those NCAA tournament games, and if I remember correctly, in some of them, not all of them, he definitely backed it up with his play.
For sure.
And which was huge, you know.
How about redshirting Jeremy Eaton and the contribution he came in as a senior? And he hangs over this whole thing. We're not whole without him, and we miss him so much.
Yeah, we do, and what a tragic, you know, story. But also just, you bet. I mean, he was a huge key to that because you just literally don't have, you know, 6'10" guys like that are so skilled. And he was skilled, and he was country tough. And he also, you know, played with a real chip on his shoulder. I think all of them did. I mean, I think all of them felt kind of disrespected, you know, in the recruiting process or whatever, and whether they were or not. At that point, it didn't matter, but it was working. You know, obviously Casey Calvary embodied that. He was an incredible force and kind of a unsung hero in all this too, you know. I mean, his run was, I think, an Elite 8 and Sweet 16, and I don't know if it was another Sweet 16 after that, but pretty amazing. In fact, it was. But yeah, no, Jeremy was huge. He was huge to have a skilled forward like that, you know, basically he was a stretch 4 before there was a stretch 4 or even a stretch 5, you know, in some ways. Let us be really, really versatile, and obviously we played out of that too.
The thing that makes me the proudest out of all this is when I meet the current Gonzaga players. Every time, a big fella, come here, you got to meet Drew Timme.
Yeah.
How have you managed to recruit such incredible humans that make us all proud? And so many places don't grow with this kind of integrity and heart. What's the secret?
The secret is just the staff that have been here, the guys that are, you know, if you think back through all the way back to Billy and Leon, and then, you know, obviously Tommy was huge. B. Mike, you know, these guys that have played here and understood what being a Zag truly is like, and they're very protective of our culture. And a lot of places talk about culture, but I mean, this one is a strong culture, and it truly is a family, especially when you see a weekend like this where we get everybody back. And you know, I'm telling you, the greatest gift that you receive as a coach is, you know, to see your guys come back and see how, you know, what they are now as men, and just to see the camaraderie that they still have with all the guys that they play with. And you know, that's not just these groups, and these groups are obviously really, really special in that regard, but I can just tell you that, and I hope everybody feels good about this, you know, all the alums that are here this weekend, you know, the guys that are playing currently in the NBA are the same way, even though they're not even in the same generations. Like Domas and Jalen played the other night in a great game, and you know, they get together before and after the game, you know, and Chet and Kelly Olynyk, totally different generations, but that Zag connection, you know, you see them and there's photos and things being written about, you know, how they get together before or after a game, and that is just so cool. And I think that in some ways is what I'm talking about with the culture and the family and that essence.
Well, and to keep all that going, final question. We're in a new era, NIL. And it feels like Gonzaga is a glorious underdog again, and I think that's where we function best. But it's adjustment time. We're going to take what the defense gives us, pass up good shots to get great ones. Father Tony Lehman. What are we doing in this new NIL era? How can we help? And can you please explain to us what this glorious Gonzaga collective is? We're going to show you a QR code, but how can people start giving? Because if I won Powerball, I'd put that money toward NIL because I want that natty. I want it one time, but it's a new era where we're actually going to have to compensate players.
Yeah, and it is a new era, but I think the first thing is everybody just needs to understand, just like we just explained, it's going to be done the Zag way. It's always going to be done right, and it's always going to be done, you know, within the rules, if there are any anymore, but also just, you know, to me, it's about helping us stay competitive, you know, in this area. It's just another front that we have to, you know, compete on. You know, we compete on the floor. We've done a great job, obviously, with the facilities and things around here, and travel and all that. And now we just need to compete in this. And you know, one thing we've always done, being Zags, is we live and love to compete. And you know, this is kind of, you know, the next frontier. And I would also say it's just an unbelievable way to get our players even more engaged in the community and doing stuff and connecting with all the fans here in the Spokane community and even nationally. And but it is something that we have to, you know, we need help. We need help from Zag Nation all over the country and internationally. We got all these fans, you know, because of the great job our guys have done. But we also, you know, need our help from our former players and our alums and all that to help us step up and keep competing in this area.
Okay, so GonzagaCollective.com. Everybody donate. Coach, I just want to thank you for bringing me into this program. Anything I've been able to do is only because of Gonzaga and the belief from you and these brothers you brought me in with, and I just want to say thank you.
Well, Big Ed, it's been awesome to see your career blossom. I mean, and I've always felt you're like one of the players, and it's almost like watching, you know, the guys develop in the NBA, but to see you And I don't know how people realize this. I mean, you slogged along for quite a while down there. I was worried about you sleeping around in LA.
I got a couple concerned talks, but I appreciated that.
Eating cat food off a tray or something, or however you were.
George Foreman grill on the toilet.
Yeah.
It was
surviving.
Yeah.
It is so great to find, to turn on the TV and there's Big Ed on a Modern Family episode, or I'll hear your voice back when the kids were watching cartoons on, the Bear, whatever the heck that thing was, and just the movies now. It is so well deserved and so well earned, and we're all so proud of you, and we all love you and just think the world of you. So, I mean, we can't thank you enough for you being a part of this and coming back and doing this.
Are you kidding? Thank you so much, Coach.
You got it.
For GUTV, one last time, I'm Eric Edelstein with Coach Mark Few. There's your QR code.